dear Azalea, my dear friend, Azalea Yao Edwards.
Mhm.
You are so many things to so many people in this world. So I almost don't know where to begin. I know that folks here in Greensboro know you as the owner of Emerge Skin and Soul. Did I get the name right?
Yes.
Yes. Emerge Skin and Soul. And um, but you, to me, you are so big and so powerful in this world, and I'm not sure that you even know how big and how powerful of a force you've been in my life. So we've known each other. I'm going to go longer on this intro than I normally go, and I'm like getting teary-eyed just thinking about it, so bear
I'm
with me
already
here a
getting there
second.
too.
um you and I have known each other for a long time because I would go to Chakras Spa back in the day, and you were my esthetician. And when you went out to start your business on your own, I followed you. And back then it was Emerge Skin Therapy, and you've since rebranded to such a beautiful, intentional name and space and website. And I was thinking about what I wanted those listening to know about you. And I just remember you were always, when we first met, you were so professional. You're still very professional, but you were so reserved. And, you got in, you got what you needed to do. And then when I followed you, you're still so professional. And our friendship didn't bloom until much later. And I always saw you as this person who was so brave and such a trailblazer. Like, you were the first woman that I met that I watched begin, like, set her own path in business and entrepreneurship. And watching you do that gave me the courage to open my yoga studio. And our friendship developed over the years later, as I was laying on your on your table and getting services from you, which are really such healing experiences. And you also opened a path for me of setting me on my spiritual journey as well, of making things that had been scary to me previously be okay. And it opened such an energetic spiritual path for me, Azalea. I don't even, I just thank you so much. And to me, when I think of the forest of my life, you are one of the biggest, brightest, most beautiful trees in that forest. The wisdom that you've shared with me over the years, I would not be where I am today. My business would not be where it is today without you in my life. And I'm so grateful you're here. And that's probably the longest intro I've ever given on this podcast.
Oh my gosh, Alicia, I am absolutely blown away and humbled and just about speechless right now. So I thank you so much for sharing that with me. Um, I do, recognize that is part of my journey is coming into my own courage and bravery and stepping into big scary things and realizing at the point that we were connecting that I was in a position of sharing my experiences and that I was helping people break open and start having their own awakening experiences laying right there on the table with me. And so that certainly is what, pushed me to continue and rebrand and just keep listening to spirit and following the nudges to just keep moving forward and do bigger and better things and realize dreams that I didn't even know that I had. So thank you for being a part of that.
Yeah. I have so many questions I want to ask you because I know that your wisdom is so important for our listeners. And so I'm going to go about it we're going to go on a little journey in this podcast
Okay.
today. I want to start with, did you grow up wanting to be a business owner? Did you grow up thinking that you would enter into entrepreneurship?
No, no, not at all. I grew up wanting to be an artist, and was very, very artistic and just loved nature and art. I grew up out in the country. I didn't know what a bikini wax or a facial was. Um, but it's interesting. And I don't know whether this was just self-imposed limitations or if they were put upon me and I just don't recall. But, at some point I told myself, you cannot be an artist. You're not good enough. You'll just be a struggling waitress. And I was like, okay, I can't do that. And then there was a point in high school where, I joined a theater class just to get over my fear of speaking in front of people. I couldn't even get up and read a report in class without crying. And then just discovered that I loved theater and I loved acting. But then that voice came in again and was like, you're not good enough. You can't be an actor. You're just going to be a struggling waitress. So I was like, okay, shift gears again. And then I discovered I loved the behind the scenes, like doing makeup and things like that for theater. So it's time for me to go off to college. I still want to do something artistic, go into Associates for Arts. And then one thing just kind of led to another. Someone told me that they, heard that you couldn't make money from touching someone's skin without this aesthetic license. So went and got my aesthetics license, and then had like a 10-year, great career. And then came to own my own business out of just kind of pain and frustration of where I was at in kind of reaching this leadership position, but not being respected or given the authority in that leadership position. I feel like who wasn't in authority didn't trust me. So I feel like there was nowhere to go. So I just kind of went out on my own, and it was very scary, and no business courses, no classes, no desire to be a business owner, just kind of following where I was being guided at the time. But even in that, just kind of struggling in solo entrepreneurship. And then it wasn't until sort of my own great awakening after my mother passed away, and then really tapping into spirit, source, God, universe, and really listening and following where I was being guided. But no, I had no desire to be a business owner at all.
Mm. Something that we definitely connected on. I remember when your mom passed away, and I remember you telling me about pieces of your journey then. And this was before my dad passed away. And I remembered just listening to you in such on your table. And I remember, like, it's so funny. That is such a receptive place to be. Like, I love that experience of receiving a healing service from you, be it a facial or even a bikini wax. I mean, those can be their own form of healing journey. I know you don't do those as much anymore.
You're laying there vulnerable, and that a lot of healing comes through that for sure.
Yeah. And side note, I went to the gynecologist yesterday for a thing, and I was like, I get more care and love at Emerge getting a bikini wax than I did at my freaking gynecologist office. And I was so upset. I was like, I just need to go to Emerge. I need to like feel this experience with the bikini wax. Yeah. But that's a total side note. But laying on your table, and I think I was getting a facial at the time, and we at the time had cultivated the type of relationship to talk about these things. And you were sharing with me where you were on your spiritual journey. And I know that you were talking about pulling cards and doing past life readings. And I then went to Sky Bradshaw at your recommendation and started on that path myself, getting a past life reading that really resonated with me, and realizing that, like, this is not a bad, scary thing. This is one more tool at our disposal to help us on our own spiritual path and our own spiritual journey. And then when my dad passed away, I felt like it felt like all of the things that you and I had spoken about, and all of the things that you like, it's almost like you were my sensei or my guru, that like this person that had like, you prepared the path for me to be ready when I needed to step into that place with myself. And when my dad passed away, it's like I now had the spiritual tools where no one's ready for the death of a loved one ever. Like, no matter how, even in the cases I think where we might quote unquote expect it, I don't think we're ready. But because of what we did together, because of what we talked about, because of the encouragement you'd given me, I was prepared in a way that I wouldn't have been prepared otherwise. And I'm wondering if you realize the impact that you have on people and how important what you do is.
I think I have an inkling, but to hear that and see that reflected back to me means everything. But it is just, just being vulnerable and willing to share what you're experiencing. And, I've always just gone a little too deep, a little too fast, and feel like I've, scared people away. Oftentimes in friendship or just social situations, because I don't really know how to do the small talk very well. I dive deep pretty quickly. But
Great hand raised. Say.
Yeah. But yes, that's through having guests like you on my table and seeing, like, I'm just sharing my experiences, but just realizing, like I said, that my sharing was really becoming like an activation for others. And so yeah, I don't know. I do see it and I don't understand it, but I know that this is exactly, I'm doing what I'm meant to do. And, even in just years of doing facials, people would always say, oh, you have such healing hands, you have such healing hands. And it wasn't until I really stepped into like Reiki and, really connecting to and listening to spirit in my own personal way, that I was able to realize just how much I could do in connecting with people, and then just having people, lay there and relax and release and let go and truly connect with themselves, and, connecting with me, connecting deeper with themselves, and then ultimately just a deeper understanding of their own self-care needs, their skincare needs, their energetic needs, all of that.
You also, when you made the decision to rebrand, you very intentionally, thoughtfully you knew that we had these energetic needs along with our physical skin needs, and that what was happening on your table was beyond just surface, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering, I feel like you've been very ahead of the curve and seeing this need and attending to it. And I'm wondering if it was a scary decision to start going that direction, because here in Greensboro, it's a different type of place. It's very conservative, and these are kind of new ideas for some people. And I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about that decision to start moving more intentionally into the energetic realm as well, and what that's been like for you and for your clients.
I feel like I didn't have a choice. It's funny you say that about kind of being ahead of the curve. I'm recognizing in my own energetic patterns that even like astrologically and empathically, that I often feel things kind of ahead of time. I really stay up to date, just following astrology. I wish I had enough time to study it and know it myself, but I follow enough that I oftentimes notice that I'm already in the energy that's coming up. And I feel like that is so that I can experience it and then help guide others through things. So that's one thing that I recognized. But I feel like I really didn't have a choice. It's what's that saying, like once you know, you can't unknow, or once you see these things, you can't unsee them. And I was experiencing spirit guidance moving through my life so powerfully that I had no choice but to listen and to follow the guidance. It was actually kind of a kooky story. So similarly to not having any desire to become a business owner, I also had no desire to expand and become bigger.
I was pause right there. Can I say what I know about that?
Yeah.
You took a chance on me as a first time coach. Like we sat down together. I asked for your opinion. I told you what I was doing, and you said, "Oh yeah, I'll do coaching with you." And I was shocked at the time because I saw you as my mentor. And we sat down, and I remember saying something like, I see you doing more, like bigger, different, like big. It's not exactly bigger. It was that I saw more for you. And you're like, nope, I'm staying small. I like this how it is. It's manageable. It's small. It's exactly.
Just want to maximize the profit potential of my space that I'm in. That's kind of where I was.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah. So, okay. The rest of that.
And you weren't the only one. I had another friend, and I'll tie that into the end of the story here too. So, no desire to expand. Okay, do these things. I'm just trying to figure out how to make the space that I'm in and the business that I'm doing align more with my new experiences. But I go and have a pedicure with a dear friend of mine, and I just got this overwhelming sensation come over my body. And I told her, I was like, I just got this overwhelming sensation that I am supposed to move my business. And she said, girl, I told you you're supposed to have a healing center. And I'm like, okay, but hold up. And then it was just this interesting thing. It was just, I don't know how to describe it. It wasn't a voice. It was just a feeling in my body that made me say that. And then one thing just led to another. We had this little bat visit my spa, and it was outside on the wall for a couple of days. And it was just really interesting as people were coming in to get different services. Everyone was having different experiences with this lovely little bat. And on the third day, Spirit finally is like, have you looked up what this bat means for you? Because I'm very tied in with spirit animal symbolism. That is how Spirit often talks to me, is through animals. So I'm like, okay. So I go and look it up, and it's the typical bat symbolism, death and rebirth, transformation, which was making sense because I was already in the process of rebranding my business. But then at the end of the article, it said it may also mean the changing of a lease. And I was like, that's it. I need to move. And that was it. A bat told me to move and expand my business. So then just kind of one thing led to another. I'm telling a client, and she's like, oh, you need to buy a building. And I'm like, oh, ha, ha, ha. I go to talk to a real estate friend, and we're talking about what I'm looking for in a potential new lease. And then I'm like, oh, ha, ha, ha. Someone said I should buy a building. And he puts his notebook down, and he's like, I know the building you should buy, and I can help you buy it. And when I walked out of his office, there was a feather on the ground. I picked it up, and I went home and pulled some cards, and there was a feather card telling me that I was being guided and directed by my ancestors. And I just was like, okay, we're doing this. I would never have done that on my own. It's like this unrealized dream. But that's what I mean by like learning to listen. And like, some people can look at those kinds of things and be like, that is crazy. A bat on the wall, a feather on the ground, like that's far reaching, right? But if it's my truth, it is. Those things do guide and direct me very powerfully. So
yeah, they guide and direct me very powerfully as well. And I know that you said that you didn't want to expand, but I also know that behind the scenes you were researching things like taking classes on how to run a spa business, and like you were doing the work. I don't know, the Spirit was nudging you, even though like maybe you consciously weren't saying
yeah. Those kind of things actually came a little further when I realized like, oh shit, I'm doing this. I better get it together. So I did start working with a spot business coach, and some other things. But I've always been kind of, self-searching and learning and, diving into, diving into like initiations into like leadership and things of that nature at that time for sure. So consciously no, but unconsciously sure. Yeah, something
Yeah.
was preparing me. My higher self was ready.
When I work with female entrepreneurs, especially ones that allow themselves to, who are open to being guided by spirit, one of the things that I find really fascinating about working with that particular clientele, and it's my favorite clientele to work with, but it's the ones that are, you'll think they're not doing anything. Like to the outside eye, you'll think they're sitting still. Yet it's like they're winding up. It's like they're internally, energetically, they don't even know it sometimes, preparing to be open to the signs, to have the energy to do what's being called forth. And then when the download happens, watch out, because magic is, but it's magic and they're ready. And I think that's a very different approach than just saying the numbers say do this. Like the textbook says do that. Not that there's any textbook for entrepreneurs, although I wish there was sometimes, but it's the ones that are willing to be guided into what's next and listen to spirit, universe, God, great creator, whatever you want to call it. That the most, and it's not that work isn't being done. It's just a different kind of work than our culture says is appropriate.
Absolutely. There's so much power in that, the womb space, the darkness, the soil where the seed is, getting ready to blossom and grow. But, it's part just trusting the ebb and flow. Lots of times we think we have to be going, doing, preparing, and all of this, but it's whenever, like in my own personal process, because I'm guilty of that. I'm very, very busy and get trapped in the busyness. But whenever I, for example, invest in myself and step away and go to like a plant medicine ceremony or some sort of retreat, it's in that pulling away and getting quiet and putting all the to-dos aside, that the inspiration and all of that comes through. And if you don't take the time for those things, for me personally, I feel like spirit will like knock me down into a spiritual flu and be like, okay, you're not taking the time to be quiet and to not do. So we're going to put you in this place where you can't even remember what you were supposed to be doing. So that you can get to that place of creativity and let the downloads come in, and then when you're ready, then you're right, you take off and go. But we fight the calm and the ebb sometimes. Yeah. It's really important, to trust that.
I'm wondering how your creative self, that younger self that wanted to be an artist but kind of talked themselves out of it, how does she show up in your business now? And how does she help you stay connected to spirit in your work?
I just have to remind myself to keep tapping into that feminine nature, which is creativity. And when I first started even doing brow waxes, I was like, I'm just putting my creativity into brow arching now, and I'd let that be okay. But it's there's so much creativity that isn't even realized within my business right now. That's where I get stuck, is I have all these creative ideas and all these things that I want to do, but I'm sort of still trapped in the treatment room. I don't want to say trapped, but I do work in the treatment room to a capacity that I don't give myself that time to create and flow. But just do the women's circles. And when I don't have time to do the women's circles, where the public is invited in. My monthly meetings are basically women's circles, and I do put a lot of creativity into how I lead and mentor my employees, and then just the creativity in creating services and things of that nature, I suppose.
Yeah, and what you do is just, I mean, sometimes I don't even have words for it. I walk out of there and I feel like I'm transformed sometimes. And I think like, all right, I thought I was getting a facial, you know, or, whatever it is. And then I walk out of there and I'm like, whoa, I am now a clean palette, ready to create something new myself after I've experienced, work at Emerge, oftentimes with you, but with some of your employees as well. And I'm fascinated. Why do you think that is? What do you think is happening?
Well, we do set very intentional or strong intentions. Several ways. We kind of set protection and boundaries to keep out anyone and anything that doesn't or won't understand and honor, the energy exchange that we're doing. But we set intentions for everyone that comes to the door to receive healing and to be able to relax and release and let go of whatever it is that isn't serving them, so that they can, step into and connect whatever they need to move forward. So yes, we're in a beauty industry, but we really are just creating safe space for people to let go and relax and connect with themselves. And then just, human touch and connection is so powerful in helping to move stuck energy. So, sometimes we're not even aware that we're not doing an intentional energetic service, but still it's just the intention. And even when I do a facial, I guide them through a little grounding meditation, but then I always quite often walk around to their feet. And sometimes it's just a moment of helping them ground. Sometimes I say a prayer for them. Sometimes I say an intention, or sometimes I just thank them for being there and thank them, for their friendship or for, just patroning my business or whatever it is. So there's just, from the minute you walk in, there really is a flow, and everything is so intentional for you to release whatever isn't serving you.
I really appreciate you sharing all of that, because I think, we've got a lot of creatives, we've got a lot of makers, we've got spiritual seekers who listen to this podcast, right? And I think that it doesn't matter if we have a business that provides a service where we are actually touching someone, we're sitting across the table from someone. But I think that reminder to have sacred boundaries, that reminder to set intentions, the reminder to have rituals of gratitude and presence, those can be felt like sonic energetic waves reverberating out, and they attract who we want, and they repel those that can't receive what we have to give. And I think that the more intentional we get about that, the better. And I feel like I really learned that through experiencing what you do. So thank you.
Yeah, fantastic. You're welcome. Thank you.
Azalea, something that you and I have talked, I hope this is okay. If it's not, you can tell me, but I really want to talk a little bit about, I see you as a leader, and I see you as a powerful voice. And I know that that's not always been a comfortable place for you. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that's shown up for you and what you do with that? And whatever you're comfortable saying. If you're not, that's okay.
Yeah. No, this whole experience, this whole this podcast experience is very cringy to me, as my daughter would say. So just being in the seat of vulnerability, and it's been a sort of a lifelong struggle of wanting to be seen and heard and understood and recognized while simultaneously not wanting to be seen or heard or recognized. So, you know, that is certainly part of it. I feel like, you know, using my voice it's a lifelong karmic struggle of mine. I feel like it's something that I really showed up with. And even before we met today, I was going into meditation and was guided to sing Kumbaya, which was a song that my mom had me sing in a church talent show when I was really little. And I feel like that's kind of when a lot of this, at least that I'm aware of, you know, I was very fearful. I got very sick, had a sore throat, like laryngitis. It was just all coming from this fear of using my voice, and then getting on stage and my voice cracking and just being humiliated. And I think I was just in tears on stage. So that's like one of my first experiences with like how my voice, when I really shut down my voice. And so yeah, Spirit guided me to sing that song today. Sorry, I kind of forgot the question. It was more on leadership, not my voice.
No, but that you're getting to the heart of exactly what I was hoping we would talk about, because I think that we see, when we recognize another leader, we all of a sudden put all of these qualities on that leader. We project onto them who we think they are. And so I know that me giving you the introduction that I gave, all of a sudden there's a projection that people have about who you are within our community. And we forget that leaders are people. And we forget that leaders struggle with everything that we struggle with. It might not be that exact same thing, but leaders have struggles. And leaders are human. And leaders are spiritual. And there's so much that leadership and spirituality and entrepreneurship, there's so much that we embody. And we'll see someone who's further down the road than we are. And we think, they couldn't be afraid to post on social media. They couldn't be afraid to go on a podcast. They're not afraid to share their story because they're sharing their story. And we forget that oftentimes there's a lot of work and there's a lot more to the story that we don't know. Can you speak to that?
Yes, absolutely. So I mean, you know, just being human and having, you know, fears, and that's part of my journey too, is learning to show up in fear, learning to, you know, do the hard things. You know, one of my first ayahuasca ceremonies that I did, just right out the gate, was very lost and disoriented, and I stood up and I just sort of said, like, I'm lost. I needed to find the bathroom. I really needed to go to the bathroom. And so I just stood up and I'm like, I'm lost. And Spirit's like, you know, trust and faith. And I was like, well, what if I get lost? What if I'm wandering into the woods? And she said, you know, put one foot in front of the other. And so I did. I literally started walking like a tightrope, and I started putting one foot in front of the other, and then all of a sudden the bathroom just magically appeared right in front of me. So I am learning over and over and over again how to show up in the fear and just put one foot in front of the other, and, you know, show up and do hard things. And that was when I was at the beginning of me, you know, trying to expand my business and decide if I was doing the right thing. And, you know, was I getting in over my head and all of that. But yeah, it's just, you know, we've just got to show up for ourselves. And, you know, as scared as I was to do this and as cringy as this is, you know, I knew that, in some way or another, I'm being called to this, and that it's bigger than me, and it's not just about me. So showing up through the fear and seeing what comes of it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. I love that story. And I mean, you show up in so many ways. For instance, I've seen how, I mean, you were buying your building through the beginning of the pandemic.
I bought the building and then the pandemic hit. And so I was just like, I felt very, very guided every step of the way. And I was even getting messages from Spirit that was like this, the timing was everything. Like there was this thing and it was really good for me, but there was a window of time that I needed to move on. And so I did all that and closed on the building, and then COVID hits and everything shuts down. And I'm like, it made me, not lose faith, but like question my own intuition and question all this guidance. But then one thing led to another, and there was a really, really big reason for that window of time. And part of it was how ready the community was for what I was doing. And people were afraid to leave their houses, and they were afraid of connecting, but we were providing a safe space for people to come in and connect with themselves and connect with us if they weren't having connection at all. But there were also some interesting, financial things that for that window of time.
Yeah. Yeah. And watching your journey of faith through all of that just was very inspiring. So thank you. Thank you for who you are and what you do in this world and how you've impacted me. I'm wondering what else you might want to share with those listening today.
Being in the beauty industry, there's a lot of talk of, anti-aging. So I just want to make it clear, that we're not anti-aging, we are pro-aging, and encourage, everyone to, honor the place and the space that you're in on your journey, whether you're in that young maiden, mother, or, wisdom in the crone phase, just honoring where you're at and the beauty in all those phases. And everyone's, individual beauty is so unique. So, really learning to connect with yourself and connect with your own beauty is so important. But again, we're not anti-aging. We are very much so pro-aging and everything that comes on this journey of life.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for adding that tidbit. And the last question I have for you is, how do you live a life of abundance?
I guess just tapping into that feminine nature, that feminine knowing that we're always provided for, and that there's enough to go around for everyone, and through just awareness of your abundance, having gratitude for it, but always take it a step forward further and try to connect the dots, and recognize where all that abundance is coming from. Whether it's a successful month at work, then I am acknowledging what had to go into that. My employees showing up and doing their best, the clients showing up for themselves and investing in themselves, and it just goes on and on and on. So I love connecting the dots and seeing the web of life that leads to that abundance.
Azalea, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you, Alicia. Thank you so much for providing such a beautiful platform for so many wise women and men to share their stories.
Thank you.
Yep.